Hey everybody, Robert here from blackbeltgaming, continuing to read through Adventures Dark and Deep. And I thought I would take a quick look here and dive in a little bit with Adventures Dark and Deep Lite. In my main series covering the thicker books, the full books, we've covered all the different classes. But let's talk about what's different in Adventures Dark and Deep Lite. One thing that jumped out at me immediately was in the attributes section under strength. We didn't have exceptional strength on a larger scale. Exceptional strength for fighters has been pretty much limited to a category called 18 plus, where you get a +2 to hit and a +3 damage, and an open doors is a 4 out of 6. For all of the classes, it's 18 is the maximum, +1 to hit, +2 damage, and 3 out of 6. So you basically have 1 step up with your 2 hit, 1 step up with your damage, and 1 step up for your opening doors if you have a fighter character that has exceptional strength. We can see here in the character races section, it has been drastically slimmed down. You have dwarves, elves, halflings, and humans, and I believe that is it. So let me double check if there are anything about half elves, but basically we're going dwarves, elves, halfling, human. So although I didn't see it in the table of contents section, we do have a bit on half elves right here. As the name implies, half elves can trace their parentage to both the elven and human stock. Their immunity to sleep and charm spells is not quite as potent. I think it's 30% of the time. They do have infravision of a range of 60, and they inherit their parents' ability, their elven side, to spot secret and concealed doors. So looking back at the contents again, the table of contents, we have character classes, and we have bard, cleric, fighter, magic user, and thief. So I think many of us expected there to be the cleric, fighter, magic user, thief, but the bard has been put in there. And actually, the Bard was in the first edition AD&D's Player's Handbook, but it was a rather clunky class to try to play. And so no one I knew growing up and learning the game, I don't think we ever had a Bard. So here you can play a Bard starting from level 1. So those will be the 5 classes, and then we saw in the Adventures Dark and Deep main book, not the light version, there were a bunch of subclasses that split off from these different ones here. So Bard had things like Jester and Skald, and Cleric, had the Druids and other things, and Fighters, of course, had their subclasses like Rangers and Paladins, and Magic Users had the Illusionist. Thief had some subclasses like Assassin and such. So just got the main classes for this light version. So let's just talk for a minute about the balance of kind of old school Dungeons and Dragons with its level limits. Remember that demi-humans had various special abilities that they gained. They also had the ability to multi-class. However, they were limited to their level advancement, and it was only humans that could play any class and reach the very highest levels of power. Well, you're going to run into an issue with this light version of the game, I think, if you're playing a human, because the game is limited in the light version to 8th level. 8th level is the maximum level that any character can progress to. And that's plenty. You can get years of play out of just going from levels 1 to 8. But demi-humans, you can see over here on table 11 that there are certain classes that cannot be taken by certain races. So it appears that maybe a dwarf cannot be a bard or a magic user. A halfling can't be a magic user. And so we see some of those limitations. But humans can be 8 down the line. They can be bard, cleric, fighter, magic user, thief. Level 8 is no problem. Other classes are a bit limited, especially halfling here. For example, halfling can be a level 5 bard, a level 4 cleric or fighter, and a level 8 thief. So thief is the exception. All the demi-humans can be a maximum of 8th level as a thief, so no limitations there. So there's still some workarounds here. So like a dwarf can be a level 8 cleric, but only a level 6 fighter. For some reason that surprises me, but I would have thought they could have gone higher as a fighter instead of a cleric, but maybe there is a reason or some sort of thing from some other publication that I don't know about. Because I do remember that dwarf clerics were not in the AD&D first edition player's handbook. That could only be played by an NPC. But if you have your relevant ability scores high enough, your maximum level can adjust. So if you are a dwarf fighter and you are looking close to getting to level 6 and maxing out there, if you do have an 18 strength, then you get +2 extra levels of potential. So you could go up to level 8. If you have a score in strength of 16 to 17, it adds 1 additional level. So you could go up to level 7. So again, I do see an issue with humans not really being able to take full advantage of their ability, which is to level up higher than the other classes. That was a problem back years ago when I played AD&D. We typically played low-level games. I think the highest level game I may have played in, I don't know, we did play in one high-level one-shot adventure, but I think most of us didn't reach much beyond 7th level. So the demi-humans can multi-class, and it doesn't go into much detail in the Lite version about humans and dual classing. Let me take you there. So here's the human section, just basically saying they can be any race, any class, 3 to 18 for all their abilities. Unlike non-humans, human characters are not able to multi-class, but they can change their class once in their careers. In order to do that, they have to have at least a 15 in the relevant class that they are currently in. So if you're a fighter right now, you need to have a strength of at least 15. But you need to have at least a 17 in the attribute central to the class being moved to. So if you wanted to switch from fighter to cleric, you're going to need to have a 17 in wisdom to make that happen. So actually a higher attribute in your new class that you're switching to. Fighters with exceptional strength do not lose it when they change classes, but non-fighters with an 18 strength who switch to fighter, they don't get exceptional strength when they switch over. So it's interesting just here, that's about all it describes. So it doesn't go into all the heavily strict restrictions that I remember for dual classing, where you pretty much had to forget everything you ever learned from your other class while you're leveling up in your new class until you reach a level higher in your new class than your old class, and then you can start using and mixing the abilities together. And so I guess that's a little bit of a bonus here, that there is less restrictions explained. I haven't yet seen that listed somewhere else in the book. So Humans, I still think, are going to be at a disadvantage here, based on all the extra bonuses that other races are getting. So, again, just a little shout out to Castles and Crusades for what they did with their system and their ability to give humans their own unique advantage in the game by giving them 3 prime attributes instead of just 2 like the non-humans. So, Adventures Dark and Deep, playing a human, pretty much everybody's nearly going to be able to reach the same level as you, or pretty close. So you kind of lose your edge there. But if you do want to switch a class, change your careers once, it is possible, and the Lite version does seem to have less detailed of a detailed process to do that, and less restrictions regarding that, as far as your ability to mix and match things that you could do from the past with your new class that you're choosing to become. So just flipping through at a glance from myself, it appears as if each of these classes is pretty much like they were in the other book. I don't think any abilities that I can notice here have been taken away. And again, it says that thieves can wear any armor, so that indeed wasn't a typo. But what you get are strict penalties when you're wearing any kind of heavy armor. So if you're in plated mail, you can pretty much forget trying to do anything a thief can do. You're going to lose heavy percentage points, 50% or more in most cases. So I think the classes are pretty much like we went over. The Lite game keeps the alignment system unchanged, so you still have the not only lawful, neutral, and chaotic, but you also have the good and the true neutral, and the neutral evil and chaotic evil, and you have the full mix here, as you do with AD&D. So this is a light version of the game, but even so, it is still based on Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and characters do have weapon proficiencies. So the bard starts with 2, the cleric is the same, the fighter has 4, magic user has 1, and the thief has 2. You will gain new proficiencies every few levels when you level up, fighter being the fastest. So you gain a new proficiency once every 3 levels, and most of the other classes are later, especially magic users, once every 6 levels. When you're using a weapon that you're not proficient in, you do have a penalty. So if you are a fighter and you're proficient with a sword, but you pick up an axe, you're at a -2 penalty. But a magic user who's proficient with his dagger picks up a staff, he's going to have a -5 penalty. He's just not trained to the same extent that a fighter is. But being a light version of the game, I didn't really expect weapon proficiencies to be here, but they are. So it is closer to AD&D First Edition than other basic or light versions of OSR games that I've seen. Just glancing at the weapons table, it looks also like this may be slightly slimmed down, but there's still a wide variety of weapons to choose from. So battle axe, hand axe, throwing axe, longbows, short bows, crossbows, light and heavy, including hand crossbows. You've got flails and maces and hammers of different types. You do have the javelin, but unlike, and I'm looking at you, Castles and Crusade starter set, unlike Castles and Crusade starter set, which somehow brought in the Cat of Nine Tails whip and skipped the spear, Why? I have no idea. But you've got the spear here with your 1 gold piece and weight of 5, and it doesn't list the damage on this chart, but pretty sure it's a 1d6 probably. Anyway, you've got your standard weapons listed here, and there may be some things taken out to sort of shorten this, but at first glance, nothing really jumps out at me as missing that should be there. So in my main series talking about Adventures Dark and Deep, I was about ready to jump into combat, and I think I'll jump into it first here in the Lite version and see if we have any differences there. I think there may be, especially if we get into something like weapon type versus armor type. That I'll have to double check that and reference that back and forth, but we're going to head into combat in the next video, so I hope you'll check it out. Thanks, everybody.